Imagine standing in front of a mirror, but instead of just your reflection, you see everything you've ever suppressed, your fears, your anger, your insecurities. It's not a comforting sight, is it? Now imagine this. What if those hidden parts of yourself aren't flaws to be fixed, but guides leading you toward your life's true purpose? Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers of our time, believed that the parts of ourselves we deny, what he called the shadow, hold the key to our deepest potential. Today, we're going to journey into this hidden world. By the end, you'll not only understand your shadow, but also discover how it can guide you to a life of authenticity, purpose, and inner peace. But let me leave you with this thought as we begin. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's a map, and today we'll learn how to read it. Imagine this. You're walking through a dimly lit room, and in the corner, there's an old chest covered in dust. You've walked past it countless times, barely noticing it, but today, something compels you to stop. As you open it, you find fragments of yourself, memories, emotions, even desires that you thought you'd left behind. This chest is your shadow, the hidden part of you that Carl Jung believed holds as much of your truth as the parts you show to the world. The shadow isn't just a collection of bad habits or negative traits. It's the side of you that society, upbringing, or even self-judgment has taught you to disown. Think about the times you've been told to stay calm, be polite, or avoid conflict. Over time, these messages teach us to suppress what doesn't fit into the image we want to project. That anger you weren't allowed to express. It became part of your shadow. The creativity you were told wasn't practical. Shadow. Even the dreams you let go of because they felt impossible. All shadow. But here's the paradox. The shadow doesn't just contain the parts of us we fear. It also holds our greatest untapped potential. It's as if we're looking at a treasure map, but the map is written in a language we've never learned to read. And until we face it, the treasure remains hidden. Have you ever had a moment where someone's behavior triggered a strong emotional reaction in you, far more than the situation seemed to warrant? Perhaps it was a colleague's arrogance, a friend's criticism, or even a stranger's carelessness. These moments are clues. Jung believed that the traits we dislike most in others often reflect the parts of ourselves we've rejected. It's like holding up a mirror and seeing not just their flaws, but your own. Jung famously wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." These triggers aren't accidents, they're invitations. Your shadow is calling out, asking to be seen, acknowledged, and understood. The shadow isn't inherently dark or evil. It's simply the side of you that remains unconscious, hidden beneath layers of judgment and fear. It shows up in your relationships, your decisions, and even your dreams, whispering to you in ways you might not immediately recognize. And the more you ignore it, the more it controls you. It's like a beach ball you're trying to push underwater. The harder you push, the more violently it resurfaces. But imagine what would happen if you stopped resisting. What if, instead of fearing your shadow, you began to explore it? What if the traits you've disowned weren't flaws, but tools for growth? This is the perspective shift that Jung invites us to make. Think of your shadow as a well of untapped energy. Suppressing it takes effort that could be redirected toward creativity, relationships, and personal growth. The anger you've buried could become the passion that drives you to create change. The fear you've ignored could become the wisdom that helps you navigate life's challenges. The desire you've denied could become the inspiration for your greatest achievements. As we move forward, let's begin to unravel the language of the shadow, to understand its messages and integrate its power into our conscious lives. Because the truth is, the parts of yourself you fear the most might just be the key to the life you've been searching for. Close your eyes and think about every great story you've ever heard. Whether it's the myths of ancient Greece, the epic tales of medieval knights, or even modern blockbusters, they all share one thing in common. The hero must face their greatest fear. But here's the twist. It's not the external enemy that truly defines the hero's journey. It's the inner battle. Carl Jung understood this better than most. He believed that the journey of self-discovery mirrors these mythical quests. At the heart of it lies a confrontation with the shadow, the hidden aspects of ourselves we fear to face. This isn't just a metaphor, it's a psychological truth. Growth demands that we step into the unknown, into the parts of ourselves that feel most uncomfortable. Think of Hercules, the great hero of Greek mythology. His strength wasn't just tested by the monsters he defeated, it was shaped by his ability to confront his own rage, his own flaws. Or take Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, who had to face the darkness within himself before he could truly become a Jedi. These stories resonate with us because they reflect our own inner journeys. The shadow is the part of ourselves we'd rather not see. It's the fear of failure, the jealousy we deny, the desires we suppress. But Jung teaches us that these aren't obstacles to be avoided. They are doorways to transformation. To embrace your shadow is to begin the hero's journey. But here's the hard truth. This journey isn't for the faint of heart. Facing your shadow means questioning the stories you've told yourself about who you are. It means confronting the parts of yourself you've judged or feared and asking, why are you here? What are you trying to teach me? Imagine standing on the edge of a dark forest. You know you have to step inside, but every instinct tells you to stay where it's safe. That forest is your shadow. The path through it is unclear, but it's the only way to reach the other side, to discover the fullness of who you are. Jung called this process individuation, the integration of the shadow into the conscious self, creating a sense of wholeness. Individuation isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole. It's about realizing that your light and your darkness are both essential parts of you. Every hero's journey begins with a choice. Will you stay in the comfort of the known, or will you step into the unknown, into the parts of yourself you've tried to ignore? The path may be steep and the forest dark, but on the other side lies something far greater, the authentic you. Ask yourself, what fears, emotions, or desires have you been avoiding? What stories have you told yourself to justify keeping them hidden? And what might happen if you finally chose to confront them? Because here's the truth. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's your guide waiting to show you the way, and once you take that first step, you'll discover that the strength to face the darkness has been within you all along. Imagine walking through life with a map in your hands, but the ink is faded and the lines are blurred. You know there's a destination, but the path feels uncertain, incomplete. What Carl Jung teaches us is that the missing piece of that map is often hidden in the parts of ourselves we've tried to ignore, the shadow. The very traits we suppress, the emotions we bury, the dreams we abandon, all hold the keys to understanding who we are and what we're meant to do. The shadow isn't just a collection of fears or flaws, it's a reservoir of untapped potential. Consider this. Every time you've silenced a part of yourself because it didn't fit the image you wanted to project, you've locked away energy that could have fueled your growth. The anger you were taught to suppress might hold the fire needed to ignite change. The creativity you dismissed as impractical might be the spark that leads to a life of purpose. Even the envy you felt could be a clue, pointing towards something you deeply desire, but have convinced yourself you can't achieve. Carl Jung believed that the shadow acts as a compass, guiding us toward our authentic selves, but to follow it, you must be willing to face it. This isn't easy. It means asking hard questions, like why certain emotions or desires make you uncomfortable. It means confronting the stories you've told yourself about what's possible and what's not. Most of all, it means recognizing that the parts of yourself you fear aren't your enemies. They're messengers, waiting to be understood. The idea that our shadow holds our purpose might seem paradoxical, but it's one of the most profound truths of Jung's work. The energy we use to suppress our shadow doesn't disappear. It lingers, creating tension, frustration, and a sense of incompleteness. But when you turn toward it, when you acknowledge and integrate it, that same energy becomes a source of strength. It's as if the parts of yourself you've been avoiding suddenly step forward, not as obstacles, but as allies. This process isn't theoretical, it's deeply human. Think of figures like Frida Kahlo, who turned her pain into art that spoke to millions, or Martin Luther King Jr., who transformed anger into a movement that changed history. These weren't people who avoided their shadows, they embraced them, channeling their hidden depths into something meaningful. Your shadow holds the same potential. It's not just about uncovering your fears or flaws. It's about rediscovering the passions and strengths you've buried alongside them. Purpose isn't something you find out in the world, it's something you uncover within yourself, and the shadow is the doorway. So ask yourself, what have you been avoiding? What dreams have you set aside because they felt impractical or unworthy? What emotions or traits have you suppressed because they didn't fit the image you thought you needed to maintain? These aren't just questions, they're invitations, because the parts of yourself you've been running from are the very parts that can guide you to the life you're meant to live. The journey of purpose is not a straight line. It's a spiral leading you deeper into yourself, forcing you to confront the light and the dark. And as you begin to integrate your shadow, you'll notice a shift. The tension you've carried begins to ease. The energy you once spent hiding parts of yourself is now free to fuel your growth. You stop feeling fragmented and start feeling whole. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This isn't about perfection or achieving some ideal version of yourself. It's about wholeness, about accepting every part of yourself, even the parts that scare you. When you do, you'll find that the purpose you've been searching for isn't out there. It's been within you all along, waiting for you to listen. Imagine standing at the edge of a dense, shadowy forest. The air feels heavy, the path ahead uncertain. You hesitate because every instinct tells you to stay where it's safe. But deep down, you know the truth. The answers you seek lie within the darkness. This is the essence of the hero's journey, a timeless story told across myths, legends, and even our own lives. Carl Jung believed that this journey, the confrontation with our inner darkness, is not just a metaphor, but a psychological reality. Every great transformation begins with a descent, a willingness to face the parts of ourselves we'd rather avoid. This is what Jung called individuation, the process of integrating the shadow and becoming whole. The shadow represents the unknown within us, the parts of our psyche that we've buried because they make us uncomfortable or don't align with who we think we should be. But here's the paradox. These hidden aspects don't go away. Instead, they linger in the unconscious, influencing our thoughts, actions, and emotions in ways we might not even realize. And the more we avoid them, the more power they gain. Think of every great hero in mythology. Hercules wasn't defined solely by his strength, but by his ability to confront his own flaws, his rage, his impulsiveness, his regrets. Similarly, Luke Skywalker in Star Wars had to face the darkness within himself before he could truly become a Jedi. These stories resonate with us because they reflect our own psychological journeys. To grow, we must face the parts of ourselves we've rejected. Jung believed that our greatest growth comes not from avoiding the shadow, but from embracing it. He described this confrontation as the night sea journey, a descent into the depths of the self. It's a process that requires courage, honesty, and vulnerability. But it's also profoundly transformative. Imagine, for a moment, standing face to face with your shadow. It's not a monster, it's a reflection, a mirror showing you the parts of yourself you've tried to ignore. Maybe it's a fear you've carried for years, a desire you've suppressed, or an anger you've buried so deeply that you've almost forgotten it's there. Jung teaches us that these aren't flaws to be eradicated. They're messengers, each one carrying a lesson about who you are and what you need to grow. The process of individuation isn't about eliminating the shadow. It's about integrating it. This means accepting that your shadow is a part of you, neither good nor bad, but simply human. It's about understanding that your light and your darkness are not separate. They are two sides of the same coin. Together, they make you whole. But how do you begin this journey? It starts with awareness. Pay attention to your triggers, the moments when you feel anger, jealousy, or discomfort. These emotions are often signs of your shadow at work, pointing you toward the parts of yourself you've disowned. Instead of pushing these feelings away, lean into them. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What part of me is being reflected in this moment? Jung believed that this process of self-inquiry is the first step toward wholeness. It's not about blaming yourself or others. It's about understanding. Each emotion, each reaction is a doorway, inviting you to explore the depths of your psyche. This journey isn't easy. There will be moments when you want to turn back, to retreat into the safety of the familiar. But remember, the hero's journey is not about staying comfortable. It's about transformation. And every step you take into the unknown brings you closer to the person you're meant to become. Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Enlightenment isn't about escaping your shadow, it's about embracing it. It's about understanding that your greatest strengths often lie hidden within your fears, waiting to be uncovered. As you begin this journey, think of the stories that have always resonated with you. The myths, the legends, the tales of heroes overcoming impossible odds. These aren't just stories. They're maps, guiding you through your own shadow work. And just like the heroes of those stories, you have the strength to face your darkness. The shadow isn't something to fear, it's something to explore. It's not an enemy, it's a guide. And as you take that first step into the forest, you'll discover that the light you've been searching for has been within you all along. Imagine for a moment that every conflict you've ever had, every moment of tension with another person, wasn't just about them, it was about you. What if the people who irritate you, challenge you, or even inspire you are reflections of your own inner world? Carl Jung believed that relationships act as mirrors, reflecting the parts of ourselves we've hidden away. This is the shadow at work, not only within you, but also in how you connect with others. Jung called this phenomenon projection. When we disown parts of ourselves, whether it's anger, fear, or even creativity, those traits don't disappear. Instead, they surface in the way we see others. Think about it. Have you ever felt intense irritation towards someone who seemed overly confident? Or maybe you've judged someone for being too impulsive or too controlling. These reactions often have less to do with the other person and more to do with parts of yourself that you've suppressed. Jung teaches us that projection is a clue. It's a way for the shadow to make itself known. The traits we see in others, especially the ones that provoke strong emotional responses, are often traits we've buried within ourselves. This isn't about blame or self-criticism, it's about discovery. Each time you feel triggered by someone else's behavior, it's an opportunity to ask, what does this reveal about me? Relationships are fertile ground for shadow work. They push us, challenge us, and force us to confront parts of ourselves we might otherwise ignore. But they also offer a path toward healing and growth. When you understand the role of the shadow in your interactions, you stop blaming others and start taking responsibility for your own emotional responses. This doesn't mean excusing bad behavior or tolerating unhealthy dynamics. It means recognizing that your reactions are windows into your own psyche. But the shadow doesn't only show up in conflict, it also plays a vital role in creativity. Jung believed that the shadow is a reservoir of untapped energy, a wellspring of ideas and inspiration. When we suppress parts of ourselves, we block access to this energy. But when we integrate the shadow, we reclaim it, unlocking creativity we didn't even know we had. Think of some of the greatest artists, writers, and visionaries in history. Their work often emerged from their own shadow. Frida Kahlo's paintings, filled with raw emotion and vulnerability, are a direct expression of her pain and struggles. Vincent van Gogh channeled his inner turmoil into works of unparalleled beauty. Even Martin Luther King Jr. transformed his righteous anger into a movement that changed the world. What these individuals show us is that the shadow isn't just a source of darkness, it's also a source of light. The same energy you use to suppress your fears, doubts, or desires can be redirected into creating something meaningful. The anger you've buried might fuel a powerful message. The fear you've avoided might inspire you to take risks. The envy you've felt could point you toward passions you've denied yourself. Jung believed that creativity is one of the most profound ways to engage with the shadow. When you create, you give voice to parts of yourself that might otherwise remain silent. Whether it's through art, writing, music, or even problem-solving, creativity allows you to explore and integrate your shadow in a way that feels safe and transformative. But creativity, like relationships, requires vulnerability. It means being willing to face the parts of yourself you've hidden. It means accepting that your work might not be perfect, that it might reveal more about you than you intended. Yet, it's in this vulnerability that true creativity is born. Imagine what your life might look like if you stopped running from your shadow and started working with it. How might your relationships change if you saw them not as sources of conflict, but as mirrors, reflecting your inner world? How might your creativity flourish if you stopped judging your ideas and started exploring them? The shadow's role in relationships and creativity is profound because it teaches us one simple truth. The parts of ourselves we fear the most often hold the key to our greatest connections and contributions. When you embrace your shadow, you stop living a fragmented life and start living as a whole person, authentic, creative, and deeply connected to yourself and others. As we continue this journey, let's explore how this integration of the shadow not only transforms your inner world, but also helps you find alignment and purpose in the world around you. Imagine living a life where every decision feels deliberate. Your actions align with your values, your relationships feel authentic, and you no longer carry the weight of self-doubt or inner conflict. This is the essence of true freedom, not the absence of responsibility or challenge, but the ability to live in harmony with every part of yourself. Carl Jung believed that such freedom comes only when we embrace the shadow. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves we've rejected, buried, or disowned. It's the voice we silenced, the desires we labeled as wrong, the fears we tried to ignore. But here's the paradox. The more we run from these aspects of ourselves, the more they control us. Jung taught us that by bringing the shadow into conscious awareness, we take back the power it holds over us. Freedom begins with self-awareness. Think about the last time you felt frustrated, jealous, or deeply insecure. Did you try to push those feelings away, telling yourself they were irrational or unimportant? Most of us do, because these emotions make us uncomfortable. But Jung believed that these moments are signals, opportunities to uncover the deeper truths we've hidden from ourselves. For example, if you feel jealousy towards someone's success, it might not be because you dislike them. It might be because their achievements mirror a desire you've suppressed within yourself. If anger flares up in a situation, it could point to a boundary that's been crossed or a value you've neglected. These emotions are messengers, and listening to them is the first step toward liberation. But self-awareness alone isn't enough. To truly embrace the shadow, you must move beyond judgment. This means acknowledging your feelings and desires without labeling them as good or bad. It means saying, "Yes, I feel this way, and that's okay." Imagine how freeing it would be to no longer fight against yourself, to accept your flaws, your fears, and even your mistakes as part of who you are. Jung described this process as individuation, the integration of the shadow into the conscious self. It's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole. Think of yourself as a painter. If you refuse to use dark colors, your work might be bright, but it will lack depth and contrast. When you embrace both light and shadow, you create a masterpiece that's rich, authentic, and complete. Embracing the shadow also frees you from the need for external validation. So much of our lives are spent trying to fit into societal molds, to appear successful, likable, or together. But when you accept all parts of yourself, you stop needing others to define your worth. You become less concerned with how you're perceived and more focused on living authentically. This freedom extends to your relationships as well. When you embrace your shadow, you bring your whole self into your interactions with others. You stop hiding behind masks, and this authenticity creates deeper connections. You also become more compassionate, understanding that everyone carries their own shadow. Instead of judging others for their flaws, you see them as fellow travelers on the journey of self-discovery. True freedom is the ability to live without fear of your own reflection. It's about looking in the mirror and seeing not just the parts of yourself you're proud of, but also the parts you've avoided, and knowing that they all belong. It's about reclaiming the energy you've spent suppressing your shadow and using it to create, connect, and grow. Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Freedom isn't found in escaping your shadow, it's found in embracing it. It's found in the courage to look within, to confront what you've hidden, and to integrate it into the person you're becoming. This journey isn't easy, but it's worth it. Because when you embrace your shadow, you reclaim not just the parts of yourself you've lost, but also the ability to live fully, authentically, and freely. And as we move forward, we'll explore how this integration transforms not only your inner world, but also your ability to find meaning and purpose in the outer world. The shadow isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of something greater. Your shadow isn't something to fear. It's the key to your true self, your creativity, and your purpose. By embracing it, you unlock a life of authenticity and freedom. If this journey resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mystic Psyche. Your support helps us bring more transformative content like this. And this is just the beginning. Click on the next video to dive deeper into Carl Jung's groundbreaking ideas and uncover even more about the hidden depths of your mind. Your journey of self-discovery continues there. See you soon.